This is a $150 peony root, and we bought 5 of them. Have we lost our mind? I tell you, I'm gonna go set it right over here very gently because I cannot afford to break it or mess it up in any way, shape, or form. Let me tell you about kind of our peony, because we do like to carry unusual varieties, but this one in particular is very unusual and very expensive. But I'll tell you what, we were looking through our catalog last summer of the different peonies that we wanted to carry. And of course, there's the ones that are pretty easy for us to come by. So we can get like a Sara Bernhardt, a Peter Brandt, Cora Louise, Festiva Maxima, Felix Crousse. There's also the Victoire de la Marne. I say it with an accent because then it sounds like I know what I'm saying. I have no idea how to pronounce it. And Duchesse de Nemours. Trying it again. So those are ones that are pretty easy for us to come by. Then there's the ones that maybe are a little bit harder, but still not too bad, like the Coral Charm and the Bartzella yellow one. So, you know, we're used to those kind, but we've been trying to get more and more unusual varieties or varieties that people haven't heard of. And so as we're going through our list, we picked out a whole bunch of ones that we were really excited about, but there was one on the list that was particularly expensive. It was at least 5 times more expensive than the average peony from that catalog. And that just got us thinking, like, why? Why is this peony so special? Why would it be so expensive? So I got online, did a little research, and there isn't a lot of information about this. The peony that I'm talking about is called Lois's Choice, and it was developed in Michigan by a grower named Chris Laning. And basically, if we go to the like the American Peony Society, they describe it as, let me pull it up here. This is a first-class plant. It better be. With a flower of 2 colors divided into 3 sections, a pink 1/3, then a yellow 1/3, and then a final pink. The pink is a warm pink and the yellow is a bright yellow. Should be described as unique. And when I look at some of the other descriptions online for this, they use words like mesmerizing, sumptuous, lush double, enchanting pastel tint. And one source described it as, it opens peach pink. As it unfurls, a spectacle of color turns peach and cream before changing back to peach and pink again. So fascinating description on this. I have no idea like what it's really going to look like, but we decided, let's try it. Let's give this a go. And one of the things that gave us some confidence is like, okay, hopefully we'll sell it, because we do have some people who are really connoisseurs of peony. So hopefully they'll be interested in this. And if they're not, we do have some confidence in the fact that peony for us are generally an easier plant to winter over than many of the others. So we've had really good luck with it. I'm not exactly sure why this peony is so expensive, but I will say this is a really nice root. If I count the eyes on it, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's at least 11 eyes on it. That's a lot. I did find a source online, I think it's Dutch Grown, has this for $78, and it's a 3 to 5 eyes. So this one has a lot more eyes. That means it's a more mature root and it's likely going to be a bigger plant. So so that's part of the reason why the price is so high, but man, it's still so much more expensive than other peony. I'm really fascinated by it. So I'm so curious. I'll show you how I plant this up so that you can know how to plant these. I am nervous though, because it's such an expensive peony. I mean, this is not a beginner peony, and I'm not necessarily an expert on peonies by any means. But anyway, getting back to peony, I'll show you how I plant those. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about some of the varieties that we're going to carry this year, just because they might be ones that are interesting to you. So let me pull up the list. I had mentioned some of the familiar ones, but we're also going to have a red Sara Bernhardt. So the pink Sara Bernhardt is very, very popular. It's probably one of the most popular ones. It's really easy to grow. It's super reliable. And then we also have Red Magic. And then there's one called Monsieur, Jules, Elie. I think that one's a pretty common one. Another one's London. And London is considered the first container peony. So this is one that you can plant in a container, keep it in there, and winter it over in a container. And peony generally are quite winter hardy. So most people, I mean, unless you're in a zone 3 or 2. Some might be difficult in a 4-2. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look a little more into it. But you know, you can probably overwinter peony in a pot, but they don't always have that great shape because peony are known for flopping. So most varieties, people will put rings up to hold them in place, whereas this London variety is a more compact variety, so it stays upright. One that I'm very interested in is called Julia Rose, and I love the color on this. It's got that antique cream color with an antique pink as well. Garden Treasure is another yellow. And we ordered one called Candy Stripe. It has these beautiful red and white stripes on its petals, and they canceled it on us, which drives me crazy because it's the one on the cover of the catalog, for crying out loud, and they didn't have it for us. So unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say they didn't cancel it. It was sold out. So I guess putting it on the cover works. They should put Lois's Choice on the cover because like that's the fancy one. And then what are the other ones? Scrumdiddlyumptious. We'll have Red Charm. Another one called Black Beauty, really dark color on that one. We'll have Ann Cousins, which is a nice white one. Angel Cheeks has a blush color on it as well. So those are the ones that we're carrying this year. And so it's always fun to just have unusual varieties. And like I said, here in Northern Michigan, peony are quite popular because they're an easy plant to grow. Sorry for you folks in the South, I don't think you're able to grow peony, but they're super easy to grow as long as you plant them right. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to plant these in a pot from this root, and this will give you an idea how you should plant them in the ground as well. So I have my root, my pot, and my soil. Now normally we don't do any prep with our peony roots, but this one seemed a little bit dry, so I did soak it for 30 minutes. You don't want to soak it for longer than that though. This isn't one of those things that you soak overnight. Now when I look at this, I do want to make sure that my eyes are towards the top and my roots are towards the bottom. So this is kind of one of those weird shapes that we've got to work with. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be putting it in here and basically trying to keep these eyes, basically I want to maybe put the soil up to here or so. They stay really close to the top, so you don't want more than like 1.5 inches of soil over these. And it's even okay if like this eye is showing and sticking up above the soil. That's not a problem at all. If I needed to, I could do some trimming on the roots, but I try to do as little trimming as possible. Again, I am not an expert at this kind of stuff, but I have done a lot of peony and I've had pretty good luck with it. So hopefully this one is the case as well. So I'm going to set that in there. So this is about where I want it. So now I'm going to just fill it in. I did pre-moisten some of this soil because I want to make sure that it doesn't have, it doesn't dry out on me. That's kind of important. I also want to make sure that, so now if you're doing it in your yard, it's a totally different situation. And again, peony do prefer to be in the ground. Putting them in pots is not recommended, although they do have those new varieties that they say do like being in a pot or can handle being in a pot. So what I want to do is make sure that I'm getting the soil around the roots. And this will be the same thing if you're putting it in the ground. Make sure that you're getting it in there and that there's not any air pockets tucked in there. So I'm going to put some more in, get this in. Now I feel like, yeah, that's going to be okay. And again, that root, yeah, I'm keeping it so that we're not burying them too deep. If you bury your peony too deep, you're going to get foliage, but you won't get flowers. So if you have a peony that just doesn't bloom, that might be part of the problem, is that you buried it too deep. So you might want to dig it up and replant it. So I think we're right where we need to be. Let's just see where that eye is. Yeah, so the eyes are coming up right here. So you notice I couldn't center it in the pot. That just wasn't an option. I mean, I could have done some cramming and some twisting, but I didn't want to risk breaking that root. I'm just too afraid to do that. So hopefully this will all work out in the end. Fingers crossed. So Lois is coming with me to the greenhouse where we keep our bare-rooted potted plants. We'll let them grow on. I'm going to let you know, though, that the general rule is that if you have a peony, when you plant it up, for the first 3 years, you shouldn't let it bloom. So that means when you start seeing the buds, you cut them off. And the thinking behind that is that your plant will then have time to develop roots. And a peony with really strong root system tends to be a much better plant with a lot of more blooms down the road. That's really hard to do because once those buds form, you just are dying to see them. So I know we have customers who don't follow that suggestion at all, and they've been very happy with their peony, but who knows, maybe their peony would be even more exceptional if they did leave them. We also know people who cut off most of the blooms, but they always leave 1 or 2. But remember that your plant is going to be using a lot of energy to kind of produce those blooms and keep those blooms going. So you know, it's your choice, but that is kind of the official way to do it. So let me head out here and I'll talk to you guys very soon.